meeting will now come to order. We are now holding the June meeting of the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees. Will you join me in a pledge to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. I need to hear a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any patron comments on any of the agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on. And Dr. Flowers, I believe that you have a recognition for the high school.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett, members of the board. Good evening. It's with great pleasure that first, if you don't mind, I would like to recognize our early college high school team that put together our endorsement. As you know, we received a full endorsement this spring in May, and the team is here this evening. If I may, I'd like to begin with Dr. Jackie Schlichting. If you would please stand when I introduce you. She's of course from Ivy Tech Richmond, and she's been a huge help as a consultant and a team member. And of course, you know Linda Rosenberger, who's our team chair for the endorsement. And to her right is Kathy Hilbert. And Kathy, of course, is our science department chair. And in front of her is Randy Judd, who will become principal in a matter of days at Connersville High School. So I'd also like to introduce Barb Ross, who was really helpful and supportive in all of this. And then finally, I'd like to introduce Tanika Perkins from SEL, the University of Indianapolis, who's certainly now part of our team. So Tanika Perkins is going to tell you about our endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, board. I'd like to thank you for taking the time out for this presentation. My name is Tianka Perkins, and I'm here from the Center of Excellence and Leadership of Learning at the University of Indianapolis. You can just call us SEL. So I'm here to recognize Connersville High School for their early college program. SEL is an education not-for-profit that has a number of different initiatives, one of which is Early College High School. More recently, we were designated by the Indiana Commission for Higher Education as the only entity in the state that can officially endorse early college high schools. And the endorsement process entails submitting an intent to apply, submitting an application, and participating in a full-day site visit, so it's very rigorous. In the past, we had 3 endorsed early college high schools. This year, Connersville High School will have the honor of being named one of 4 newly endorsed early college high schools throughout the state. And the process is really undertaken to ensure that the schools adhere to the 8 core principles of early college high school, which include targeting a specific student population, having a rigorous curriculum, school culture, like I said, rigor, student support structures, collaboration and partnerships, staffing, and data. So I came tonight to share with you some of the strengths of the program that we'd like to recognize and why they're being endorsed. So first, Ivy Tech 101 is offered to all students as an introductory course to get them familiar with college processes and rigor and work. And that can be taken alongside other early college courses, or it can be taken as a remedial course for students who aren't quite ready for college work. But the point is they're being introduced to new expectations. Another thing is we saw very strong administrative and teacher leadership. This team has been wonderful. They submitted a great application. And another credit to them is that they have 20 teachers on staff who have the credentials necessary to teach dual credit courses, which is a really big feat and is often hard for schools to find talent to be able to do that. Also, the design of the curricular pathways has really improved over the years. There's also a really strong relationship with the higher education partner, Ivy Tech, at both the Connersville and the Richmond campuses. And also staff buy-in, parent buy-in, and community buy-in has been strong. All of those stakeholders showed up for the site visit, and they were enthusiastic about the program, and that meant a lot to us. Also, most importantly, students are reporting that their early college classes are rigorous and authentic. They say when they go to other college campuses and participate in workshops or courses that they feel like what their early college courses feel like, and those feel distinctly different from how regular high school classes feel. Also, this program is starting to extend down into the middle school grades. Those pathways at the middle schools are starting to be realigned to match what's being offered at the high school, which we see as really great for consistency's sake. And finally, we think that the Taco U program with Ivy Tech, which is Take a Course on Us, is a great opportunity to expose students to college courses because they can take one for free through the partnership that the school has built with the higher ed partner. So I came down here today to recognize you all with a banner for your accomplishments. You have so much to be proud of, and we're excited for you. So we're here to hand this off to the school.
Way to go, Randy. Bubble.
So we just wanted to say congratulations, and we hope that as a board you'll continue to support this program either at its current level or even provide it with more support. We'll be back to recertify the program in a year, which is, you know, a regular part of our process. And I just want to say thank you again and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Sure, our pleasure.
All right. All right, moving along, we'll go into the consent agenda, which is the approval of minutes from the regular business meeting of 5/7/13, the executive meeting of 5/7/13, the executive meeting of 5/23/13, and a special meeting of 5/23/13. The personnel report, which includes retirements, resignations, leaves of absence, etc. The approval of May 2013 claims 31798 through 32155. Title I, approval to apply. Acceptance of donation from Everton Elementary PTO for landscaping and outdoor benches. Donation of $3,000 from the Fayette County Wrestling Club, and $2,000 donation from the Fayette County Foundation for CHS. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving into our action items, personnel report, Dr. Bayer.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett, Dr. Hodges, members of the board. We have several persons for your consideration this evening. In fact, a full page as we start our hiring process this summer. I'll read the names and the positions. All of these folks will begin August 5th, the first official teacher day, 2013. Libby Adams, math teacher, CHS. Mary Ann Avery, life skills teacher, Maplewood. Kelsey Baker, fax teacher, CHS. Misty Barrett, elementary teacher, Fayette Central. Kathleen Boyer, art teacher, elementary. Suzanne Bouvier, life skills teacher, Maplewood. Aaron Chester, English teacher, CHS. Shannon Estep, math teacher, CMS. Carrie Garlish, elementary counselor, Fayette Central, Maplewood. Melissa Miller, elementary teacher, Frazee. Heather Rourke, elementary teacher, Maplewood. Tyler Schmidt, social studies, CMS. Daryl Shaw, industrial tech teacher, WTCC. Brooke Tipton, elementary teacher, Fayette Central. Aaron Trimpe, physical education teacher, CMS. Kimberly Tungate, psychologist, CHS. Leanne Wilcox, English teacher, CHS. And one support staff member, Glenda Jackson, caregiver, custodian, Magic Moments, effective June 11, 2013. And in addition, there is an attachment A for all the summer school recommendations, elementary, and also our secondary, middle school, high school, and Whitewater Career Center. All those teachers are effective, highly effective. Teachers have been will be approved hopefully this evening for their summer school assignments. Those persons for your consideration this evening, Mr. Burchett.
Thank you. It is the pleasure of the board on the personnel report.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Taker.
I recommend we approve the personnel report.
Okay, the motion has been made to approve the personnel report. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Motion has been made and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Now we go into curriculum and textbook adoption. Dr. Reedy.
Mr. Burchett, members of the board, Dr. Hodges. Last month, we were presented with a memo that was explaining the textbook recommendations and curriculum recommendations for the business, facts, engineering and technology, and the agricultural tax courses, as well as the elementary benchmark literacy program for reading. And you had access to the Atlas login if you wanted to review the curriculum that was studied, and the memo consisted of the recommendations of the committee for your approval.
Okay. Those were highlighted, I believe, last meeting in the
Yes.
report that you gave
But they've
out.
had an opportunity, it was quite an
Right.
extensive thing, if there were any questions.
Right.
Be happy to do my best to answer them.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the report.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and second that we accept the curriculum and textbook adoption report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, the revision of the CHS Handbook, Academic Probation and Study Table Guidelines. Dr. Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Members of the board, Dr. Hodges, the handbook was approved a few months ago, but since then, the high school has revisited some of the specifics on the academic probation and the study table guidelines, and would like to address a couple of additional changes based on aligning closer with the IHS rules for what it takes to maintain that study table recommendation, and it aligns better, therefore it's easier to monitor. Plus, the way it was written, there was situations that kind of fell through the cracks where students were not held to the same or high enough standards in order to be released from the study table. So it made common sense to address that and to clarify that. And the second one with the study table. Let's see, the study table and the academic probation. Well, those are both the same thing. Oh, the timing. They changed the time, and plus we had the number of misses that a student could miss, because going from 6 weeks, they allowed 3 misses, but now that we're going to 9 weeks, they wanted to increase that to 4 misses, and then they also accommodated for the early bird to make sure that their time was allowed to attend a study table, since they weren't allowed to do it in the morning because of class. So just some changes that were necessary.
Okay. What is your action on this board? Excuse me.
I move to approve the amendment to it.
Okay, the motion has been made to approve the revision of the handbook. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Is there any discussion?
Is this something that's the handbook that, I mean, is it the whole corporation, or is it just the high school?
This is the high school's handbook.
It's the athletic handbook.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Has Mr. Duncan, has he been involved in that as well?
He actually was generated the idea from Mich. I'm on the athletic council, so I have a little more insight into that. So,
So that's quite
but
right.
that's where that came from, because it was an opportunity. We were missing opportunities for students to get the help, and there were some ironies about people being not eligible.
Mhm.
it was unfair the way it was previously
Right.
written based on an old policy. So.
Dr. Barry, do we do the guidelines from a state point of view or just locally?
These, I think, are local because they pertain just to our CHS athletes. They're within the guidelines of IHSAA, but I think specifically we want to make sure our student athletes have every opportunity to be successful, and as Dr. Ricci eloquently put, not anybody falling through the cracks, which I think is really critical.
What these done to actually make us more comparable to the Indiana High School Athletics Association rules?
That's what it says in here, to better align with IHSA.
Yeah, we're also going from a 6-week to a 9-week grading period, and I also threw some caveats. Yeah, so, yeah.
I was just really thinking about the student athlete that maybe transferred from another school system to here. It might be good in their school system, but if he comes here just by our guidelines, will that affect, the transfer?
Well, first of all, the student who would transfer in has to have approval from the IHSAA to be able to continue to participate with us. There has to be application made by our high school, and I think maybe even a release from the other high school to do that. So that's one piece. And they would fall into our guidelines as best we could when they arrived.
I think with Mr. Duncan having his hand, he's been around enough.
Yeah.
He really understands what's going on, so.
He actually caught that and brought it to our attention as an athletic council, that he thought that's something that needed to be corrected. And so he was the initiator of this particular change in their policy.
Any other discussion or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the Head Start revised budget. And Dr. Ricci, you starting first with that?
Mrs. Boggs will lead this discussion.
We talked about this a couple months ago, and I don't remember while I was here, but I know I remember being up here.
A memorable experience.
Just because of the sequestration going on by our federal government and being a federally funded program, we knew we were going to get a cut. We kept hearing little rumors, but again, they did cut our program and all other federal programs by the full 5.27%. And that will start with our 2013 budget, which starts July 1st of this year. For our program, that amounts to $56,389. So we got the official word from our regional office in late May, and we started trying to do some planning to rectify our budget to cover that cut. At the beginning, that plan changed daily, and then it got better and changed weekly, but little things happened to change that. But I think we finally came up with a plan that works for us. It's simple. I'm really comfortable with it, not pleased with taking a cut, but comfortable with what we came up with. It, to me, is the program, and again, we worked with our leadership team, it is the plan that has the least effect on our children and on our families and on our programs. So again, basically it has three pretty much steps. That our funded enrollment from Head Start now is 162 Head Start slots. That's never been enough. We've always had a waiting list, but again, the cut pretty much mandated what you could cut and what you couldn't cut, and you can't cut quality to your program. You can't cut the number of days, and at first they said that we probably could do that, but then they said we couldn't. There were a lot of things you couldn't cut, but one thing that they said you could cut was funded slots, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We did run this by regional office about 2 weeks ago, and our regional officer approved it, but her supervisor wanted to know why we weren't cutting more children, which again, that just, it doesn't make sense to me, but that was kind of their thought there. But we felt good about the fact that we only cut 8 slots. So instead of having 162 funded slots, we will have 154. If you take 5.27% of our budget and you apply that to the 162 slots, that would be, to stay within that 5.27, we could have cut 8.5 slots. So I feel really good about staying to the 5% as far as what we had to cut. We did have one teacher who resigned at the end of this school year, and when she did that, that kind of shifted our thinking a little bit. So we will not be replacing that teacher. That will save, and again, this is an approximate, we haven't come to the final total, but it will save us the amount that we need to cut from our budget. It will save over $56,389 with salaries and fringes. So again, that was what we decided to do, just not rehire that position. That would also mean, though, that we will cut one classroom, and that will be at Fayette Central. Children from that classroom will be served in other classrooms, so all of our other classrooms are going to have increased enrollment. They will all pretty much be up to 16 to 17 children from 15 to 16, but I think we can cover all of those children minus the 8 that we are cutting. Our full-day classroom enrollment will be up to 20. So again, that adjustment will alter our Head Start budget that you did approve, I think, in March. The previous total was $1,088,946, and now with the budget cut, we will have a total of $1,032,557 to run our program for the next school year. And the only line items that are going to be affected by this budget cut then will be salary with the one teacher and fringes, which the fringes would go with that teacher. So again, it will be a challenge. I do think that, but it just seemed like the plan that affected our children had the least impact on the children we serve and on the program and staffing as well, because we would just be losing one staff member. So, any questions on any of that?
You just answered my question.
Yes.
Because I was going to ask you, was that going to affect any of your staff?
Just
answered it.
Just the one who resigned and we just won't replace. She had one full-time educational assistant and 2 part-time nutritional aides, and what we are going to do with those positions is then plug them into classrooms that have the full enrollment, the 17 children, or if we have one classroom that has a lot of 3-year-olds, we're going to plug them into the classrooms that need that the most. So we will still be, those positions will still be used. They just won't be at Fayette Central. They will be assigned another classroom.
Any other questions or comments? All right, do I hear a motion that we approve this report, which is
President, I
approval
move
of
that
the Head Start budget? I'm sorry.
We approve the revised Head Start budget for 2013. Second motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, then moving on, do you want to just go ahead, okay, with the approval of the Head Start Federal Compliance Plan?
I think we talked about this the last time too, that when we underwent our federal review in April 2012, we had one non-compliance, and it had to do with how we accounted for our in-kind, our space in-kind from the school corporation. We had always worked with the city to come up with an equitable fee that a like space would be charged to our program, and then we used that to account for all of our space. So the review said that we could not do that, that in-kind space had to be calculated using an independent appraisal. And so I think the board did approve that in 2012, that our plan was to get an independent appraisal, change all of our policies and procedures to then work off of that, that program. So we did all of that, and again, I think we turned that plan in at the end of August. We didn't hear from them until April 30th, and they said that they had accepted that correction, that we did get an independent appraisal and went that way, but they also issued a new non-compliance that they still don't like that method. They want us to use space and equipment in kind now has to be calculated by using a use allowance. And again, I think I put that in there. It's 2% for space and 3% for equipment. That non-compliance has to be corrected by August 27th of this year. So in order to comply with the new finding, we reconfigured our space in kind, so we're not using the independent appraisal, but we did go with the use allowance, 2% for space. That really did cut our in-kind allowance a lot. But what we did with that was we started looking at how else can we accrue some in-kind, things that we hadn't looked at before. And they seem pretty, they are tedious to calculate, but what we are doing now that we have never done before is that parent mileage to any required trainings or teacher conferences, we now have to calculate the mileage from their house to that training or the school and back. We use that as in-kind. We are claiming Chartwell's employees because they're not paid by a federal grant, and we can claim the services they do for our program. We're also claiming equipment usage. We have staff who are in-kinding a lot more than they used to that aren't claiming mileage, and now they just in-kind that to the program. So we look for every little, and I will use the word nitpicky, piece of in-kind we could find. It requires a lot of extra work, but our goal was not to have to ask for a waiver of our in-kind. The amount we have to meet is $272,237. And so our last calculation from last week, we barely came in over that. I think we had maybe $5,000 to squeak by on. We'll take that because I didn't want to apply for a waiver. We would rather meet the requirement if we can. So what we have done then, again, we looked for everything else that we had never considered before. And then we also changed the policies and procedures to now that we reflect that is what we're going to do to calculate in-kind space. So the good news is, I mean, we haven't turned in any space in-kind in this year as far as our budget, so we don't have to refigure any budget reports that we've done so far. We're going to turn that in at the final. So that just makes our job a lot easier. That was a good move as far as the January financial report, but again, makes life more challenging, but on we go. Any questions on that?
Lori, just a thought, the reduction of one classroom at Fayette Central, is that going to impact the in-kind? But you've calculated that in?
It will lower the in-kind amount that is due now. So that will help us considerably, but it will also lower the amount of in-kind we could generate from, again, and even just losing 8 children, it would lower the in-kind we can generate from their parents as well. But again, we have what I call our in-kind queen, Debbie Barrett. She's excellent with those figures, and she's a bulldog to get them too. So we appreciate her expertise there. But I do think, I'm glad that we didn't have to ask for a waiver. That was our goal.
Any other questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to approve the Head Start Federal Compliance Plan?
Mr. President, I move to approve the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Foy. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the textbook rental fees for the next school year. Dr. Reekie.
Mr. Burchett, members of the board, Dr. Hodges. In your packet, you will have the textbook rental fees that are being suggested to meet the cost of the programs for the upcoming school year. The elementary will experience a slight increase, and that is due to the benchmark literacy program. 6 years later, the cost of a quality reading program has gone up, and that is going to encumber that between the $10 and the $18 increase. And the middle school and the high school are ever so slightly changed. They average them, and of course it's a lot is dependent on the courses that they sign up for and the extracurricular components that they sign up for. So it's not by grade level, but rather by the activities that they sign up for. So we would like to seek approval for these fees for next year.
Do I hear a motion to approve the textbook rental fees?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the textbook rental fees for 2013-2014.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Jones. Okay, the motion has been made to approve the textbook rental fees for next year and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're moving into the authorization or authorizing publication of the notice of lease. Jane Kellum.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. As you'll notice, there are several items on the agenda this evening related to the QZAB issue. This is the first item. This is a request for a publication of notice of a hearing on the proposed lease. The hearing will be held at the July meeting. We just need to publish this to be in compliance with the requirements related to bond issues.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to authorize publication of this notice of lease?
I move to approve publication of the lease.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hilton.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Savoy. Do I hear any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing, again, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. We have many times as a board talked about the items in the QZAP, but a requirement for projects in excess of $1 million, whereby you're going to be issuing bonds, are required to have a public hearing on what the project consists of. As we've talked about, the project consists largely of pipes and fixture improvements at the high school. All of the items, a part of the QZAB, are for the high school. The pipes and fixtures will likely be done next summer. Over the next 3 summers, we'll have a significant emphasis on improving technology. This summer, they're working on the wireless and some technology labs. Several years ago, Terry can probably speak to how many, they received a grant that put quite a few computers in the high school, and we've been unable to replace those as timely as technology changed. So this will give us an opportunity to replace those and add technology. It also includes some security cameras, which is a part of their normal capital projects that will just be shifted over to the QZAB. Desks, seating. It does include the training for the CASE curriculum, which Dr. Ricci spoke about as a part of the curriculum change this year at the high school. It will include the training from 1 course this summer and 2 additional courses for the ag program next summer. It's windows and doors, which you're already aware of because you've awarded those projects earlier this year. They were bid earlier, and the doors are being rolled under the QZAB bond funding. The windows this year were not. There's a compliance piece whereby you have to comply with Federal Davis-Bacon Wage Act. We did not know we were going to get the QZAB at the time we went out for bid for the windows. However, we have many more windows to replace there, so next year when we go out, those will be under this bond issue. If you recall, this bond issue will not add new debt expense to the corporation's obligations. This debt is scheduled to roll on when we have other debt paying off, so it keeps our annual obligation consistent. So if there are any questions from board members or the public, I'd be happy to answer those.
This is a part of overall plan for improvements.
Yeah, this is the
3-year plan.
bond QZAB issue that we were able to apply for and we were awarded in the spring. For many years, these carried 0% interest because the qualified zone academy bonds can only be sold to banks. And what the banks receive in return is a credit on their tax return from the federal government. Then there was a period of time where banks weren't making much money, so that credit wasn't very enticing. So they had to add 0.5% or 1% to those bond issues, but still it's a very low cost bond issue compared to borrowing money on the regular market. They believe we're back in the window of where banks are starting to make money, and these bonds will be issued with 0 interest due by us, so we're just paying the face amount. But all of these qualified Zone Academy bond monies had to be spent at one location. So what that's gonna do is things that were in capital projects fund for the high school, those monies will now be redirected towards bringing technology and some other needed improvements at the other buildings. We need to be working on getting wireless in all of our buildings. We only have it in Maplewood now, and this summer they're working on it at the high school. So by having these bond proceeds, we'll be able to pay for high school projects out of here and free up more money in the capital projects, because we have much more need than we have capacity that we can levy. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to take or turn our meeting into a public hearing, which means that any of you in the audience that would like to ask questions, or you may do so now. Anyone have any comments, questions? All right, well, that was short, so so we'll move on. We'll end the public hearing then, and I'm not sure what action we really need to take.
Then you move to item I, where you adopt the
Okay.
project resolution that was included as a part of your packet for
Okay.
review prepared by the attorneys.
So do you want to speak any more to that, or is that sufficient, what you've just said?
I believe that's sufficient, unless anyone has any questions.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the project resolution.
Okay, the motion has been made to adopt the project resolution. Do I hear a second?
Second motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Any last minute questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we adopt a resolution reapproving the formation of the building corporation. Jane, you again, please.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. If you recall from previous bond issues we've had, the school corporation does not issue bonds directly. A holding corporation does. We then lease the buildings from those holding corporations. So we make an annual lease payment from our debt service fund to the holding corporation, who actually pays for the bonds. We do not have a high school holding corporation anymore. So we are recommending using the middle school holding corporation to be the vehicle for issuing these bonds. We then make lease payments to them that equal the amount of debt service obligation that we have. So this resolution here is authorizing the use of the middle school holding corporation.
All right, you've heard what she has to say about the building corporation. Do you have any questions or comments?
I move we reapprove the building corporation resolution.
Okay. Motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we adopt a resolution approving the preliminary plans, form of a lease.
In the form of the lease, so that what you've done now is establish the holding corporation to be the middle school holding corporation. This resolution will allow us to create the documents whereby we make the annual lease payments to the holding corporation to satisfy those debt obligations.
Do I hear a motion regarding the creating this document?
I move.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And what, okay, the publication of
Thank you.
notice, okay?
That's it.
We're done.
That's it
So we've done all
on
of
the
that,
bond
okay.
issue items, yes.
Oh, that was just a part of that.
It is.
Okay, then now we are finished with all of that, I believe.
For this month, yes.
Okay. All right.
Don't even begin to think we're done yet.
For this month then, that sounds
Yes,
good.
for this month, we are.
All right, switching to another thought then, the building security request for proposal. Back to you, Jane Kellum.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. This is the item that the board tabled last month and asked for some additional information to be sent to them. I believe Dr. Hodges provided that information. So it's back for your consideration from the tabling last month.
What is your action on the building security request?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Hilton.
I move to remove from the table that request.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we're going to vote then on the security issue, request for proposal. Any last minute questions? All right, do I hear a motion that we accept this proposal?
Mr. President, I move to accept the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Do I hear a second?
I say.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that completes the action items. Now we're ready for discussion items and a technology update. Dr. Riki, you going first again?
I will be happy to introduce Mr. Miller. As Director of Technology, Terry Miller has worked with the committee, the district committee, in revising and updating the technology plans for each of the buildings. And we're moving, full speed ahead with technology and trying to update as much as we can. QZAB is a big help with all of this. And we thought it would be helpful if Terry could kind of get us up to speed on where the buildings are with technology and the plans that they are looking forward to in the future. So as we present things in the future, maybe we'll have some recollection here of what the big picture was with the committee. So if Mr. Miller would share with us, we'll all learn.
Thank you, Dr. Riki, Mr. Burchett, members of the board, Dr. Hodges. Take some time here to update you on technology. Does that work for everybody? I'm going to go through and highlight the efforts of the district's technology committee that spent this spring working on formulating a technology plan. Going to look at the vision, initiatives, and planning. In accordance with Indiana code, every school corporation must have a 3-year technology plan. Those technology plans are a requirement for certain aspects of funding that we receive through E-rate, as well as certain opportunities to pursue grants and other funding mechanisms. There are questions that come up from time to time. Do you have your technology plan? This year we were required to author a new 3-year plan. Next year we'll do an update, and the year after that we do an update. So 3 years from now we have to do another authoring of an original plan. Participants in the committee, technology committee, were representative of not only the technology team, but individuals from each of the school buildings. whose effort is very much appreciated. Take a look at the vision statement that went along with our determination of the technology plan. So Fayette County School Corporation is committed to implementing technology which supports the curriculum, addresses the state standards and/or Common Core standards as applicable, accommodates a variety of learning styles that maximize student achievement. Technology will be used to improve instruction, communication, and student achievement. Three consistent goals from the corporation as well as the building level were part of the technology plan. Revolves around 3 items, one being infrastructure, one being an instruction and assessment and differentiation, and the third being enhancing communication. Little stickers in the audience now. I get to start sharing my my story, my vision. Took the opportunity to develop some slides here for the vision for technology for the district, and I looked at the best icon that I could representing our vision. I ended up with a prism, and a prism I chose because it has a light source, like a laser comes in as a light source, and then a prism will diffuse that light source into multiple spectrums of color. So our laser, our representation of our incoming sources represent students and parents and guardians accordingly, then our teachers, our educators, our administrators, the board, as well as the community. The community has a participation here as well. And then we have the foundations that build our prism, and coming out of it we have the post-graduation pursuits, colleges, technical schools, careers. So what is the technology that we build upon to build this prism that gives the best opportunity for excellence in post-graduation pursuits? Our projects, our initiatives fall within each of these building blocks that builds our prism. We look at connectivity, assurance and flexibility, interface, a few more Snickers because I love the word ubiquitous, learning management, and instruction. What's some definition behind that? We look at connectivity, we're looking at speed and magnitude. It's all about speed. We all want it now, and we all want it faster. Then we have our assurance of flexibility with servers, addressing the nature of the cloud. And I had an explanation earlier today, and I will clarify what the cloud is. The cloud is the internet, but it's where applications and hardware reside, and you're taking advantage of running applications inside the general internet. There's also a private cloud. So as you transition into the public cloud, you'll have a little stop-off point as you begin to move into the greater realm of what the internet has to offer. Come up to another layer on interface, and we talk about living in their world. We've been challenged with technology in the district with the aging of equipment. In many instances, we have students who have more technology in their pockets on their smartphones than we're able to establish within the classrooms. Ubiquitous. Learning doesn't end in the classroom. So the focus is learning at any time, any place, any path, any pace. What technology can bring to play there, I'm going to give you an opportunity to see in a video here in a moment. We look at learning management systems, we look at financial management systems, student information systems. We need to drive more to data-oriented decision making. as the district has been somewhat standalone in its implementation of technology, we have to also catch up such that our data is not so standalone. We need to create an umbrella where all of our data resides so we can make more effective decision making as it relates to the aspects of education in our school system. Top level instruction, opportunities for the 4 C's: creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. So let's try to put a little handle around what that is, more familiar terms for you. Connectivity, we're talking about fiber optics, we're talking about wireless. We talk about assurance and flexibility, we're looking at servers. Interface, PCs, laptops, tablets, mobile devices, and bring your own device. And I'll cover a little more on that here briefly. Our layer that deals with ubiquitous, we're looking at opportunities that extend the classroom beyond, or extend learning beyond our classroom. Our data decision basis, working off of what combination of student information system, financial systems, and then our instructional levels. We're dealing with not only curriculum, but also assessments and participation and evaluations. I have about a 5-minute video that I think will speak more volumes than anything that I have shared so far. So if you'll indulge me, the volume comes and goes here depending on where the microphone's placed in front of this person, so please don't be shocked when I first start off this video, because the volume may be a little loud.
Well, technology has become a passion of mine, and there's just so many new ways to use technology. Every day there's something that's new. One of my passions also is just having kids create and collaborate, and there's no better way to do that than with technology.
Fantastic. And have you seen a difference in the achievement of your students since you have incorporated, or the engagement of your students, technology into your classroom?
You said engagement. The kids are so engaged. They can use their device as a clicker to buzz in. They can use it to create things. It's engagement then leads to achievement, in my opinion. So yes, absolutely, I've seen it.
Let's step inside your classroom and meet a few of your students. So QR is one of the technology pieces you use in the classroom. How does that help you with learning?
Well, Mr. Oslander scans our QR and puts us on our homework. And so when we go home and the homework is hard for us, he has this. So when we usually scan it, we can. He helps us and gives us helpful hints about it, and it helps us with our homework a lot.
Okay, and I am seeing on this homework prime factorization. I need help. I can't remember prime factorization from elementary school. Can you show me at home what you would do to get help?
So what you do for your smartphones, tablets, all that type of stuff, you download the QR code app, and QR means quick reader.
Excellent.
So scan it, pops up, and
so then your teacher is going to give you specific help on prime factorization right there at home, just like he was tutoring you at home.
something at the very end of it. He gives us like a little question, like malaria, where is it most common, like North America or Africa? And when you answer it and you get it correctly, you have to private message him on Edmodo, and he gives you a special treat.
Fantastic. Now, if I was a parent helping my student at home with prime factorization, can I watch it too as a parent to learn that concept?
Yeah. Yes, you can, because parents sometimes, they forget, because it's been a long time since I've been in school, they forget about prime factorization, so they take their phone, they scan it, and watch the video with their kids.
Fantastic. That is very exciting. We are going to move now to learn how Mr. Oslander's class uses Wiki to support learning. So what is a Wiki, and how does it help you learn?
Well, a Wiki is basically you make one for free on a website, and basically you can post links. Mr. Auslander usually posts links, videos, resources, and helpful hints.
Very good. And how does this help you when you're not at school to be able to be a better student during the school day?
Well, if you had done homework, like they were doing QR code, he does post QR codes on the wiki page, so then you can understand your homework without having to download an app.
Very nice. It's like a warehouse for all the learning you're doing throughout the day.
It's like a Grand Central Station of learning. It goes in and out.
Very nice. And the last technology piece we're going to highlight of the many that are used in this classroom is Padlet. And this one of all three was new to me. So do tell us, what is Padlet?
Well, Padlet is a resource our whole class uses to share websites with friends working on school projects like Exhibition.
Exhibition is a part of our district-wide work with International Baccalaureate. So how does that help you with Exhibition?
Well, it helps us because some people, they're like group projects, so some people might be doing bullying. So even if you're not in the bullying group, somebody, for example, Destiny, she could post her website about bullying on the bullying Padlet page, and then everybody doing the bullying topic, they can look at that website and add more notes.
Fantastic. So it's a way to collaborate with your classmates. Do you use this at home as well as at school?
Well, yeah, you can when you're at home, you can post information about bullying or your topic, and then they can go to the producer.msdwt.in.us, yeah, something like that. They can go there and then can find information about it, and then their whole group can look at that information.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much.
That's a highlight of a video from MSD Washington Township that was published in May. And just want to show a couple of things. You'll recall in the video, they talked about the QR codes. Mr. Spurlock, could you take my iPhone and get that QR code right in the middle of those squares? All you have to do, you don't have to push any buttons. Just back up a little bit till it fits in. Maybe come over to the side so we don't have the shadow. Come over this way maybe.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here.
So the QR code, get it inside the little window. It just beeped, and there it's going right to that prime factorization video that the teacher has uploaded. And what's also significant about that is I am now accessing that teacher's opportunity to instruct, which makes it possible for teachers across districts, across the state, across the world to begin to share content that they're developing with others. So, yeah, there's the invite that comes up on the phone.
May I ask a question? How are those created? Can you create one?
It is really straightforward. All that is a graphical representation of a website link. So what they do is they just say, here's the program, I need to create a code. Okay, what's the website link? www.blah, blah, 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 blah. Generate it, and that code comes out. So it's just a matter of a program or an application to generate those codes. They don't have to be printed. As you can tell, I just read it from a video. It can be on a web page. I don't know if you've started noticing them in the grocery stores. They're on mail flyers that you're getting. They're on the sides of service vehicles. Learn more about us. And you can take your phone or your tablet device when you're in a car and aim it right at the code. So generating them is just a program that you just say, okay, I need you to generate the code. You put it in the web page, and it encrypts it all up in these little dots. Dr. Riki and I were looking at this video, and I about fell out of my chair when they showed that. I know about QR codes, but I never made the connection. And I just like, oh my. that was so simple. It bypassed me. The other thing that, of all that I have to share, can really be summed up by that one young girl. I think that's really the summary of what technology should be offering and opportunity that it lies with. It's a grand central station of learning. Technology update initiatives that are associated with the 3-year plan that we've been working on. We have our 3 criteria. We have the communication, technology infrastructure, and instruction. Take a look at, briefly, we're taking a look at some of the highlights from the plan. We have the buildings continuing to focus with student information system with Harmony. We will be rolling out the parent portal to all grade levels in all buildings this coming school year. We are also working on online registration. Online registration gives us the opportunity to get updates to demographics, as well as a move to replace paper forms with electronic forms, which then is further supporting our green initiatives. The buildings are quite excited that they don't have to generate so much paper to hand out during registration or have the impact of increased bulk mailers because of the reduction in paper we'll be dealing in. Once we have the demographics updated, then we also have the opportunity to continue communication with parents, guardians with email addresses that we'll be getting during registration, as well as text messaging. We're also going to try an initiative to collect text messages for those that are willing to share so that we can get text messages out. Many instances in the district where parents, guardians cannot use their phone, but they can receive text messages, and they will have more of an immediate communication on a text message rather than answer a telephone when it might be a challenge for them during the workday / school day. As previously shared, and I truly wish to thank you for your support in the QZAB effort. It has really helped us with initiatives and making our investments of capital projects funds in other buildings. So we are working towards a high-speed wireless. That will be that base layer of the PRISM that we presented earlier, so that we're looking at implementation for the bring your own device and one-to-one initiative. In our objectives in the course of 3 years, within grade levels or within buildings, we'll be getting individual technology in students' hands. Some of that initial effort will be revolving around a pilot project that we're doing with English Language Arts grade level 10. As previously mentioned, some of the old technology that was there from grants many years ago represent a challenge. We already pulled those out, all those computers are pulled out, and we're looking at pulling out even the desks and getting more of a traditional collaborative environment in place for the students' learning experience, and be providing iPads in those classrooms.
Continue 0.2 miles on Spartan Drive.
Time out.
Where's the?
We also have an initiative in place for high ability, sometimes called gifted and talented, to work on some digital curriculum, digital tools for high ability learning. And those teachers that are participating in that are from all building levels, and also includes iPad initiatives with that group. Continuing on infrastructure, as a result of the opportunities to free up capital projects and work with the QZAB, we will have all in-classroom PCs at the high school replaced by 2015, the third summer from now. We are working on go-to technology labs where We had previously traditional towered PCs, and we'll be creating environments there that are different than what has been traditionally introduced there, more recent technology. The library resources will be moving to servers on the internet or into the cloud. That makes the library catalog system, citing of resources available to students at home. Today our system is within the building. It doesn't allow students to access those resources from home or elsewhere. We're moving those resources, that system, out to the internet on servers, putting it out in the cloud, and students will have access to those resources anywhere. An assessment that came from Park indicated that we have a shortage of technology to efficiently administer park assessments in a couple years. And so instead of trying to build rooms at the buildings that there aren't those places to build rooms, we'll be looking at additional mobile carts. And we also will continue our initiative on safe social networking and a learning management system. Instructional efforts, as I mentioned, we have the gifted and talented or high ability group. They're looking at digital curriculum, as well as within some of the other rollouts, we have digital curriculum under evaluation and direction. We continue to work on interactive whiteboards, starting some investment in e-readers, and a very big component that you'll see within the technology plan is an investment in professional development. If we're not educating our teachers on how to educate the students with technology, then we're just buying it as paperweights. So professional development's a key aspect. We have a Apple person coming on in a 2-day workshop in July. We have participation at all levels in the district on conferences, as well as the state of Indiana DOE has an initiative of Summer of E-Learning, and there are many teachers participating in those throughout the summer as well. Highlight on some planning. If I take a look at the technology plan that was done 3 years ago in 2010, here are the benchmarks for expenditures as it relates to technology. They're qualified by capital projects, technology funds, grants. If I take a look at the new 3-year plan, this is what our investment is going to be over the course of the next 3-year plan. That represents, as a whole, on the average of the previous 3 years to the coming 3 years, it's a 44% increase of investment in technology. Wherein does the challenge lie? It lies in that green area on the right-hand side. That's a to be evaluated. The challenge we have is keeping this initiative sustainable, keeping our technology initiative sustainable. We look at what transpired 8 years ago when grant money came in and established access rooms at the high school. We fell short of being able to ever replace that technology. So our challenges are in the to be evaluated funding. Always looking at grant opportunities that will backfill those funding needs. Bring your own device initiatives. If students are working on working with their own devices, that means capital projects will have a relief. The other acronym for BYOD is STDM. Save the district money. Other complements will be to look at, as we move into digital textbooks and digital curriculum, how do we address textbook rental as a mechanism for our initiatives on devices in students' hands? With everything I have to say, I think it's really just summarized with that. It's a function or a purpose or an intent to create that grand central station of learning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anybody have a question or a comment they'd like to make?
Quiz time.
Well, what do we do with the old computers? You know, I'm sure there's quite a few of them. What's done with those when we replace them?
3 R's. Refurbish, repurpose, or recycle. We have some technology that it's just no purpose to put it anywhere.
I mean, do we try to maybe do something with that, or I mean?
We actually take it to a storage location here, skid them up, wrap them up, and have a recycling firm come and pick them up, and they pay us so much per ton, and that goes back into technology funding.
I mean, maybe that's something that we could look. I mean, there's probably a lot of students that don't have a decent computer at home or something.
We have tried to auction them.
Yeah.
And what happens is individuals buy a skid of them, and they go through and they pick out the 1 or 2 that they want, and then we're left with the rest. And technology had a lot of labor associated with stripping everything off of them to make them sellable. So 2 years ago, the board approved the recycle program because based on recommendation from technology and from maintenance, they were spending more, way more than they were getting in return for selling those items. So we used to sell them. We changed because it wasn't cost effective.
Was your question, could we direct the used equipment to the students? Is that your question?
Like to use at home.
Yeah, okay, I thought that's what your question was.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak to stripping them down and the labor involved with that.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're probably, you know, not bad computers. I mean,
Again, it's where do we put the focus of what the resources we have in technology? Do we invest that in the hours in getting these classroom technologies in place? Or do we opt to consider building computers for people? See, the hard drives have to be completely wiped because of security sensitivity. And then the effort of getting them usable is a labor intensive process. And all of that time is better spent putting our focus with what limited resources we have, putting the technology in the buildings and in the classrooms. Selling used computers also has a degree of liability that goes on with it. How far do we go to support them at that point? Even though you say you're not going to support them, you become the neighborhood administrator. They see you at home and they start saying, hey, can you come over? So, if the board chooses for us to pursue it, often we certainly will. But we would rather make our investment in turning over the technologies or putting the technologies in place and putting those hours of investment into the classrooms and in the buildings.
yeah, well, I'm not saying, you know, I don't agree with that. I just was thinking in a, I guess, student that can't afford a decent computer at home, you know, to be able to have that technology. Maybe that's not the way to go.
Yeah, nothing comes with that, though.
There's
So
no
all the
software.
things that you
Right.
have here,
Yeah.
you know, all the licensing and all those other issues, if they can't afford the computer, they won't be able to afford that aspect of it, and we can't give it to them.
Yeah.
And they can't buy it
Just a
because it's
question.
obsolete.
Yeah. But I understand, you know, and it,
We getting in the situation, the haves and the have-nots. And we got more have-nots than we do haves in this community right now.
And I think that's why we need to continue to explore the options of digital curriculum and move towards textbooks on technology, you know, in terms of tablets, laptops, moving more to a digital curriculum. If we look at that, then we have a way of redetermining our textbook rental fees, what that goes to, and moving forward with that one-to-one initiative so that they can have technology through the textbook rental process.
Mr. Miller, thank you very much for a nice presentation. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Put a lot of time in that, so appreciate it. Okay, moving along. Are there any public comments from the audience? No? All right, we'll move on then to report items. Superintendent's discussion group reports. And I see none. Principal director's reports. I see none. Director of personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Just a couple of items for your information. Our summer food truck providing our late lunch or early dinner has gone into full swing now, and we are averaging over 250 lunches or meals per day, which is about 80 more per day than we averaged last year for the first couple of weeks of school, which is really significant. I think a couple of things that lead to that. One is we are, instead of serving between 11 and 1, we're serving more like 3:30 or 4 to close to 5 o'clock. Students are up and about and they found the correct locations that are feeding more students during that time period. I think also the notoriety that the program has brought in its second year of existence has also been instrumental in increasing those lunches. We also like to thank our News Examiner folks, James, who's here tonight, and as well as Bob, and also WIFE Radio have been really instrumental in getting the word out. We appreciate the media support in that. It's really helped in generating awareness of that. So we're really pleased that we're really up significantly in the number of meals served each day in our areas. Secondly, at your table tonight is an invitation. I ran into Joy Ingerman, who's one of a couple different teachers over at the Link, and it's called The Amazing Race. And I talked to her briefly. I've been over there a couple different times, not so much when students are there, but just taking a look at some of the projects. But this is sponsored by the Link, and it ends this Friday. And there's an invitation for you to attend the main learning activities. There are about 22 4th through 6th grade students who are merged in world cultures, languages, arts, customs, and mores, and finding out how that works. They're doing their projects. Pretty impressive what I've seen so far, and I hope you'll take the opportunity, if you have some time, to pop over there Friday, June 14th at 10 a.m. If you're unable to do that, I'm sure they would be welcome you to stop by any time just to take a peek at what they're doing. But the students are really engaged, and there's some really neat activities. Kind of goes back to Mr. Miller's work on how the world is being connected now, and everything. I don't know how much technology is actually being used, but the connectivity of different nationalities and ethnicities in different countries, and students being aware of those in their activities has become more prevalent. So again, a good program over there this summer. And lastly, we will be, just to put in your calendars, really we'll be conducting our new teacher academy on July 29, 30, and 31. Due to the number of new teachers coming in, we'll have another large group next month. We may be looking at different locations, but that also ends with a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, which we'll be working with them and so forth. So we're excited about our new teachers coming in, and hopefully they'll take time to be part of either one of those days or all three of those days, and we'll be receiving a letter from our office to invite you officially to many activities that are ongoing. So, and that's all I have tonight, Mr. Burchett.
Thank you. Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Just a couple of items. I believe Mrs. Young made available at your places this evening a budget calendar. You were provided one a couple of months ago that had some tentative dates. Finance Committee today firmed up their dates for Finance Committee meetings. Additionally, the budget workshop is set for July 30th at 5 o'clock. We're gonna do everything we can to limit that to an hour. That will depend on any questions you might have. But then that way, if you're going to evening events at the fair, you should be able to get over there before the shows start that evening. In addition to that, as a part of the QZAB process, we do need to circulate a petition of school patrons, which does not necessarily mean people who live in Fayette County School District. Anyone who has a vested interest in the high school and the project is eligible to sign this petition. So we need to get at least 60 names. So if the board members and the audience would be interested in signing the petition to show the support, that is a requirement to proceed with the process. I would appreciate it. I'll leave it at James' table, and if you wish to carry a petition around to garner some names for us, just let me know and I'll make one available. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, Assistant Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Just two things. I wanted to commend Terry Miller and the Technology Committee on a job well done in helping us visualize our vision and get us on the fast pace of improving our technology. And also wanted to commend our administrators and teachers for completing our first year of the new teacher evaluation system in the RISE process. It was a very good learning experience, and we're gathering all kinds of information and data and moving forward with best practices. And so I think it's been a very positive experience overall. Thank you.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
Board, to just share with you, Superintendent Ritz did have a press conference, I believe it was yesterday, dealing with ISTEP, the issues with that. Indicated that they'll be spending up to $53,000 for an independent evaluation of that. I have a number of comments on the whole situation that you can listen to on my podcast on our website, so I won't take time to do that. But the state is making progress. I believe I read where there were only about 17% of the students impacted by the issues with the tests, but having been a part of an elementary school for a good portion of my career, knowing how word travels, that 16% to me would really impact a significant more number of students, and with so much writing on this test, we've not heard the end of it, but I do commend the state for trying to do the best that they can to provide some type of reliable result that we can use. And then lastly, to finish more on a positive note, I do want to commend the high school and congratulate them on earning the distinction of being an early college high school. I would thank all of them individually, but Mr. Judd will have to carry that message to his team, assisted by Barb Ross back there as well. I would appreciate their support on that. With that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any for the good of the cause?
I just want to mention, I was supposed to be on the agenda to report on the national convention I went to regarding 21st century education. Since I'm not, I'll ask to be on next time, okay?
Really, Mr. Hilton, what I thought was this would be an appropriate time to do that now, unless you wanted to, I didn't realize you wanted a specific time period. I knew you did want to speak, so I was expecting you to do that at this point in time. So I apologize if I messed that up.
Well, I had a handout, and I don't know if everybody got a copy, so I
Okay.
need to reproduce that.
I'll ask the secretary to remind me to make sure we have an item for next month.
I blame her.
No, I took responsibility. I'm trying to rehabilitate myself.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Taylor.
Just a quick comment. We have a lot of great staff that do a lot of great things, but I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Dr. Bear for the efforts that he's taken in the food program over the last couple of years. Steve initiated that, started it, and has worked hard with it. So thank you, Dr. Bear.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Anyone else?
One last thing, I would like to recognize these organizations that do support us on an ongoing basis, and we've had two additional, I mean, every month it seems like we have additional donations that come to us, whether it's through the PTO or the Fayette County Foundation, or the multitude of clubs that support our programs. So I always like to recognize those folks and thank them for all their continued efforts in helping us. We would not have many of the things that we do have, and our students would not have those if without their help.
And just kind of as a repeat to the early college, high school, that's great, Randy, and please let them know that we think it's great. Obviously, it's only 4 in the state, so that speaks for itself. The other thing, I back up what Dr. Bayer said, I encourage you to stop by. They do some great things, and if you can't stay very long, just stop by, and you'll be impressed by what the students do. Finally, I just have to say something about this. You know, we went to Washington, D.C. since our last meeting, and I don't know if you know or not, but we were stranded for 9 hours with a bus breakdown in a parking lot, and I want to compliment the students over at Frazee, as well as the teachers, the parents that went along. For 9 hours, those kids were so patient. Very little complaining. They just all understood the situation, and there wasn't a thing that could be done about it. And so they were just a great group of people that went on the trip. And well, just think about 9 hours out in a parking lot. That's a long time to pass.
What about that school board president that went with them?
He was just right in there too. I was scouting out places to eat. With that, do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.